the home stretch of the legislative session. Can you share an update on what legislators are working on this week?
The legislature is scheduled to end on Thursday, March 10th. And at this point, we are just finalizing several of our state budgets, as well as reviewing any differences made between bills between the two chambers. So kind of a wrap up, and looking forward to ending on time and getting back home to Yakima.
Why has no meaningful emergency powers reform been approved this session?
Unfortunately, the Democrats pulled the one remaining emergency powers bill during a 1 a.m. debate after about 25 minutes of discussion. Senate Bill 5909 provided very minimal legislative oversight over an ongoing state of emergency. I had offered a couple of amendments to improve the bill, and actually some of those amendments were ideas that I had worked on with the Democrats early on in session. They said no, and after about 25 minutes of discussion, pulled the bill and said we filibustered it. That couldn't be further from the truth. We were merely debating the merits of additional legislative oversight, and the Democrats decided it wasn't worth the time to hear those out and come to a bipartisan agreement. So I'm going to continue to fight for emergency powers reform. The pandemic has shown us the need for more legislative input and oversight. And I think that that's good governance, and we'll continue to fight for that.
What's happened with the controversial bill that bans the sale of large capacity magazines?
The House last Friday on party line approved Senate Bill 5078, which bans the sale of any magazines over 10 rounds. It was actually a few Democrats that voted along with us, believing that there were constitutional protections that said an individual in our state has the right to keep and bear arms. I agree. I think that the 10-round limit was arbitrary in addition to violating the Constitution. As we've seen in other states, there are legal challenges to these, and I believe the Supreme Court is going to be potentially hearing another case that would involve this and potentially make this bill no longer valid. The governor is intending to sign it. I believe it doesn't help make communities safer. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to prevent people from reasonably being able to protect themselves and their families. Unfortunately, we've seen in this state that our focus tends to be on criminalizing law-abiding citizens' actions and decriminalizing illegal activities. So we'll see where this goes. I obviously was a no on it, and I will continue to stand up for our constitutional rights.
The Democrats' transportation proposal is getting quite a bit of media attention. Can you share why you voted no on this 16-year, $16.8 billion transportation package?
The package as proposed by the Democrats has a variety of new taxes that's going to have huge impacts on the everyday Washingtonian and how much they're paying at the pump and in other areas of their lives. Historically, transportation packages are largely bipartisan. As a matter of fact, the last three prior to this one were all passed with broad bipartisan support. This one, unfortunately, was written behind closed doors and has a lot of priorities for one side and not the other. In addition to the taxes on Washingtonians, there was a controversial tax that would have impacted states like Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. There was a lot of media coverage, and they have since backed down. But unfortunately, in order to fill that gap, they have decided to sweep accounts that are used by cities to fund public works projects. And I think that that's not a smart move for us going forward. So we've opposed and will continue to be in opposition to that bill.
The capital gains income tax was recently ruled unconstitutional. Why?
Yes, in Washington state, we have a provision in our Constitution that says all tax on property must be uniform. And the state Supreme Court has viewed income as property. And so clearly a tax on income that's not uniform violates the Constitution. We said that during the entire debate over the bill previously, that it wasn't constitutional, it wasn't the right way forward for Washington. We were ignored, and now we've been vindicated by the county courts. The people in the state don't want an income tax. And actually, as a matter of fact, 61% of the voters rejected that capital gains income tax in an advisory vote. We need to listen to the will of the people. Our state's budget is flush with cash. We have strong revenues, and we have no need for this additional tax increase. As a matter of fact, we should be doing the opposite. House Republicans had proposed, and it was unfortunately rejected, a cut to the state sales tax, which would have had an immediate impact on every family in the state. We'll see where this heads now. I would imagine it's going to go to the Supreme Court. where we may see if they uphold the ruling of the lower court. I'm hopeful they do. But it's clear when you write laws that violate the Constitution, you're going to have problems with them, as you should.
How can people stay in touch with you after session has concluded this week?
That's a great question. My office is always open to help with constituent issues, to discuss state policy or any other way I can help out. My website, representativechriscorry.com, is a great way to visit, watch media, get in touch with me. You can email me at chris.corry@ledge.wa.gov, or you can call my district office at 509-907-6087.